Hi again everybody, welcome to another Allan Holdsworth lesson video. Today we're doing a pretty simple one, Tokyo Dream. This one was actually suggested by my old friend and co-worker Marco Oppedisano. What a great Italian name. So this one was actually pretty simple. There's not too many crazy stretches in it except for the solo section, which I'll cover in a bit. Once again, you can sort of take those solo sections with a grain of salt and not have to play the same exact voicings, but I'll do my best to show what Allan usually goes to. Alright, so let's start off. So there's a lot of tapping in this one, so I'm really just going to be talking about the left hand chords, not so much the added notes that are on top of it, maybe here and there, but not so much. So the first part of the song is this F sharp minor add 11 chord, which you're not using the G string, but you're playing this, the bottom 3 strings and the top 2 strings, and then with your right hand you're going to be tapping a G sharp and then an E. Let me get this. Then with your left hand you play a C sharp sus4 chord, and then with your right hand you're going to tap a F. Now making that sus4, you're adding the major third, and then a D, the flat 9. Now what's cool is that flat 9 adds a bunch of tension, and it's going to be released with the next chord, which is a major with an add 11, add 11 being the D that we just played, but then your right hand is playing the major third, releasing that tension. Very cool. Now this chord, I kind of struggle with giving it a name. I kind of think of it as two different ways. Functionally, I think of this as a D 11 with an add flat 9. Now there's no flat 7, but if there was a major 7, you'd have a major 7, a root, and a flat 9. You'd have 3 half steps in a row, three notes in a row. And that really doesn't belong to any normal scale. This chord actually really belongs to harmonic minor. The other way you can think of the root is, you can think of the root, I guess, as the E flat. So this would be like an E flat, major 7, sharp 11, sharp 9. This chord, if you think of it as an 11 flat 9, it's really like Phrygian dominant. But then if you think of it as the root being an E flat, then it's sort of Lydian sharp 9. It doesn't really make a difference. Again, Allan doesn't really think of the chords as much as the scale that it belongs to. In this case, he's thinking of it as harmonic minor. So you're playing this chord, and then with your right hand, you're tapping an F sharp and an A, which also belong in that chord. You pull it off, and you get the A and the D. And then from here, see, the reason why I think this sounds more like a D chord is because it sounds like a 5-to-1 to G minor with the flat 6. Now, I wouldn't really call this a G minor with that flat 6 in there. I would think of it as a first inversion E flat major 7 with the major third being on the bottom. And then with your right hand you're tapping this G and a C, pulling off for the perfect fifth between the E flat and the B flat. And then with your right hand tapping F and B flat, and then sliding to D and G. This time, you're actually going to be playing a B flat major triad with your 3 fingers. So you're going to play F, B flat, and D. And then when you slide it down, might be hard to see, but you're actually playing D, G, and C. And that's the main riff that goes through most of the song. On and on. A tip though, when you're tapping the 2 notes in the same fret, it's easier not to put them like this and not on top of each other. If you sort of stagger them a bit, it's easier to get both notes. Up here it's kind of the same thing, but it's a little bit tougher. But then when you sort of have to twist your hand so you can get that in there. So that's the beginning part of the song, and that goes through a bunch of different, comes through a bunch of different times. When it repeats here, it just takes that same part that we just did and moves it up a half step. So now instead of F sharp, we have a G minor add 9. the same way. So you're playing the G minor add 9, and then you're tapping an A and an F. Really making it like a minor 9 fully. And then a D sus4. And then tapping F sharp and D sharp, or E flat. So we have that flat 9 again. Same thing. Now you have a B flat major at 11, and then tapping the major third, D. Then you take the same chord shape and you play it on E flat, and then you tap F, and then you move the chord a whole step to F, and then you tap the major 7, E. And then you get into this weird sort of voicing. There's a couple of different ways you can think of this chord. I think of it as like a E flat major 13 sharp 11, sort of an E flat Lydian chord. You can think of the root as also being C, and think of it as like a minor C minor, because you have a C, G, and E flat here, and then you have a 6 and a 9. So you think of it as like a minor 6 over 9. Doesn't make a difference. I think of it as E flat. So you play that, and then with your right hand you're going to tap E flat and C, and then you're going to move the chord. You're going to move your first and second finger up while keeping your third and fourth finger in the same frets, and then you're going to have I guess you can call this an A major 7 sharp 11, sort of a weird voicing of it, because you have the major 7 on the bottom, and then you have the sharp 11, and then you have the root, and then you have the major third. But it sounds like a Lydian chord to me, especially you can something like that. So for this particular chord, you play that, and then you take your right hand and you tap from E, F, F sharp, and then C sharp. This is kind of weird because you have a whole step that you have to use with your right hand, but that's how Allan plays it. I'll play that part together. Then from here, since your hands are already in this position, you can just move up a little bit to this A major add 9, and the E on the top, and then with your right hand you're going to tap F sharp and D sharp. And then from here, you play a D major triad in second inversion, sorry, with the fifth being on the bottom. And with your right hand, you're going to tap an E major triad. You're going to tap G sharp, B, and E, making this like a major 13 sharp 11. Then you take that D major triad and you move it up to E flat. And then you take that triad with your right hand and move it down a whole step to a D major triad. Very cool. I like that sound. And this sort of harkens back to the same chord. The same way you can think about it. It's basically two major chords a half step apart. Anytime I see anything like that, I'm always thinking Phrygian dominant or harmonic minor. But here now you have the E flat on the bottom and the D on the top. So maybe it makes more sense to think of this chord as an E flat major 7 sharp 9 sharp 11. It's so exhausting. But once again, Allan thinks of it as I'm just playing something in harmonic minor. Big deal. And then from there it goes back to the E flat major 7 part. And that's it for the intro part, and then in this section we'll go over the solo section. Now the solo section to this song is actually relatively simple, but it has some quirky stretches in there, which would be normal for Allan. We also have the luxury that somebody had, I guess, taken a picture of Allan's lead sheet and uploaded it, not the picture, but sort of wrote it out in Microsoft Word or something, and this is what it looks like. Now this helps out a lot because this sort of shows you how Allan thinks of the solo section, and I'll show you how that part goes. So the first chord, he actually plays these chords before he solos. So these I know are 100%. First starts out with this D flat major add 9 chord. But instead of playing it like that, you're going to use your first finger and play the sharp 11 here. Sometimes you like to take the sharp 11 and move it up to the 5 and back down. Once again, the root is here, is D flat, but your first finger is not going to be able to play it. I mean, I guess if you really want. But this is not a fun way of doing it. This is what Allan usually does. He thinks of the upper structure of this add 9 chord. He uses this shape a lot. He uses it here, he uses it in the things you see with the this, even this one, which is a real pain in the butt. But the first chord is a D flat major add 9, add sharp 11. Then here he does an E minor 9 with the 4, and then yeah, he actually plays this. Now this is very difficult to play. This is the same voicing as his other minor add 9 shape that he likes to use. You can think of it as like a D major with an E in the bass, and then you move that A to G. This might be easier, or you can just play this instead. You can play the upper part of it and use the low E string. Then after that, he plays the same add 9, add sharp 11 chord, but this time the root being A flat. And then move that down a half step to G. So as you can see how Allan's thinking of it, he's not thinking of any of these chords as Lydian. He's thinking of the scale that they belong to. So in this case, this D flat Lydian chord with the sharp 11, he's thinking of it as belonging to G major. I'm sorry, A flat major. But since Allan always thinks of everything in Dorian, he has written out on his thing B flat with an X, and that little X means Dorian. On and on and on. So each one of those chords, he's thinking of the Dorian shape associated with it. So he's, as you can see from when I wrote before, I uploaded the picture. He's thinking B flat Dorian to A Dorian, and then he's thinking of F Dorian here, and then E Dorian. So that repeats 2 times the same way. Then it goes into sort of a variation of the intro part. So the first chord after that sounds like a B flat add 9 with a sus4 in it. And then, as you can see, those the little spectacles, the circles, the 2 little circles. That's, Allan thinks of that as a diminished, the diminished scale, and you can see all the different roots that he put in. So he put D, F, A flat, and B. What Allan's sort of playing here is he's thinking of that, he says it in his instructional video, as part of an altered dominant chord, or really a 7 flat 9. And that's kind of what he's doing here. He's playing, once again, he's thinking of the scale that it belongs to, not necessarily specific chord voicings. So I think he's thinking of a D major triad with a flat 9. So I guess you could play something like this. You have a D major triad here with your flat 9, or any sort of voicing that you want associated with it. You can put the D on the top. You can even do this like G sus4, sorry, G sus2, with the flat 9, the E flat there, or even something like here's a D major triad with the flat 9, or even like a D7. And that sounds like a 5 to your 1, which is G minor add 9, and you can see Allan wrote G, thinks that this part is G Dorian. Then from there it goes to the chords that we did in the intro section, sort of the weirder ones. And you can see Allan wrote C Dorian here, and that's why I said you can think of it as like a C minor 6/9, or it belongs to E flat Lydian. Said it's up to you how you interpret it, but that's how Allan sees it. Then over the next one, you have that the A major 7 sharp 11 chord. Then A major add 9, D major with the E major on top, and then E flat major with the D major on top. And that's the whole solo section. Almost perfect. Almost got away with it. So that's the whole solo section. The last little part that I wrote out with all those weird sort of names, that belongs to this chord. I think one day I'll do a video on that, what that means specifically. And then from there it goes to the outro section, which is exactly identical to the beginning, just sort of with the parts swapped. So you first start off with the G minor at 11. And then from there, then you go into to the F sharp minor at 11 part. And then that's the end of the song. So, relatively simple song for Allan. That's it. The solo chords are a little tough to figure out because there's not too many videos of Allan playing it with Steve Hunt. I found one video and I did the best that I could trying to figure out what's going on in there. But I think I gave it my best shot, and that'll be it for now. So if you got any questions, comments, you know, leave them in the YouTube section. I respond to everyone. I think that's important. Anyway, thanks a lot for all the support, the love, all the kind sayings. It means a lot. So thanks a lot, and I'll see you guys next time.